Welcome to Live Reality Games Podcast, where we talk about your favorite reality TV shows that are inspired by real. Okay, I'm already making a mistake. Hopefully that's funny. Okay, please like, follow, and subscribe our Facebook page, Twitter, and YouTube channel from Live Reality Games Podcast. Today, besides the usual rant and recap, I've listened to majority of other podcasts, and there were some interesting facts about the race. So we are ready to do a very predictable and sometimes do okay, let's just actually, I don't know what happened today. Let me just do that a little bit. So let some people talk about what I just did. Okay, so this very predictable podcast has sometimes from me the do give good advice Bill and the no technical difficulty Connor, which I have so much of difficulty already. Hopefully that doesn't deduct our points. Either way, so we're talking about the Amazing Race Season 33 episode 8. So Connor, what do you think about this episode?
I thought this episode was really on the better side. It was pretty good. I would say that, we've been having kind of like a battle of like a slow episode and a good episode and a slow episode, and we're back on a really good episode. So I actually really enjoyed this episode, and I hope if the rest of the season can stay on the level this episode was, I think we'll be okay.
Okay, so technically, like the usual, the predictable side of our podcast, I have a different side of story than yours. So no worries. So I actually this time have listened to majority of other podcasts, and there were some interesting facts about the race. So hopefully this podcast is good at gathering all the useful information and wrap into one and deliver it 6 times more valuable to the listeners out there. Did you get what I'm trying to do there? Make a reference here?
Yes,
Wrap
yes.
3 times, okay? So if you do, please leave us a comment in our YouTube channel. The race started with teams charted themselves to Greece. I think it's called Thessaloniki, where teams departed from pit start at Pereira Beach and drive stick shift again and travel to Olive Grove. Connor, seriously, stick shift is back. Any thoughts about that?
I thought we got rid of it, Bill. I thought it was over, but it's back, and luckily it didn't seem too bad. So it seemed like everyone learned it. We only had that one shot of Raquel and Kayla like battling with it. So I think we're okay. It could have been a lot worse.
Yeah, for me, it really is like a stick in the mud, a dirty way of creating drama. It's not even that appealing yet, it's just like stick shift. Oh, well, the haters will comment on a lot of stuff here, right? But I don't drive stick shift all my life anyway, so I will have trouble with that. So once the teams arrive at Olive Grove, they need to find the next clue by jumping high to retrieve it or grab a ladder and climb up to take it. Raquel and Kayla were very determined to get the clue without using the ladder. Apparently, according to Kim and Penn Holderness in their podcast, the ladders weren't even there when they arrived. So good for Raquel and Kayla. Connor, would you ever let me climb on top of you and retrieve the next clue from very high up there?
If that's what it took for us to get to the next level, climb aboard. I'm like a tree. I'm pretty tall, so
Okay.
we'll be okay, Bill.
No worries. But I when you said very tall, I thought I could try to lift you up, but I don't think I can right now because I don't even know how much you weigh. Well, we can talk about this after the podcast.
I'm a
So,
twig. I'm a twig.
yeah. So then, of course, teams then drive to Mariana Vineyard with a roadblock about who likes to rap. Connor, do you rap at all?
This might be very surprising, but I do not, in fact, rap. I know it's a very big shocking to everyone that I don't rap, but
It's okay. I'm old enough to not know anything about rap. I don't even actually rap for food myself, so I don't really know what to say about that. But what do you think about this rapping roadblock?
I thought this was probably the most down I was on the episode because it feels like we just had a roadblock like this.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know if we did, but it just feels so repetitive again. I keep beating that drum, but it was fine. It was fine.
Okay. Well, I think I know what you're referring to because I think every roadblock right now is more like it's confined a little space. They have to basically look at the instruction follow the instruction, and finish the task. So it's kind of repetitive, like you say, again, 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 and again, right? The robot was nice, but I think personally, I think it was a missed opportunity that Mariana is also known as a vineyard. And with the location that they visit is known for wine production, I actually go to Wikipedia or Google, basically Google about Greece and vineyard. Because personally, I was surprised I see so much vineyard in Greece, or in that particular region of it. So then I look at it, it's like they are very well known for wine production. So I was just very surprised that the Amazing Race didn't make that location a detour. So if a task that involves wine or vineyard, any ideas what detour they can do at this location?
Um, I know in the past, I remember season 13, they had a task where they had to climb into this like tank
Mm-hmm.
and like stomp on a bunch of grapes
Mm-hmm.
and make like juice out of it. And
Yeah.
like, if we're like, what's wrong with bringing back a task we've seen before? As long as it's not every season, I don't see a problem with it. They like the like flashbacks. They like we did this in this season. It
Mm-hmm.
encourages people to go back and watch and be like, oh, that's an insane clip. Let me go back and watch that season. So for
True.
me,
Mhm.
um, that's an easy task you could do.
Yeah, and that's an easy way to basically do a switchback, right? So I'm like for me as the Amazing Hunt producer, like I have done races before at Tap House or two races that dedicated to local craft beer breweries in British Columbia. So if there were when the time when they were driving involved, which for safety reason, of course, we would not have the teams to drive after tasting some wine, right? I think that was probably the same philosophy. They don't want the teams to actually drink, or like they can do stomping the grapes, like you said. And I also remember that Amazing Race used to have a wine glass challenge where they had to build like a pyramid shaped wine glass, and they keep piling up, and they have to pour it, and then who knows how much losses that they have broken in that particular task, and is it really costing them a lot after that episode was finished? They have to pay the vendors or whoever they went to. How much? I don't know. That must cost a lot of money to basically keep paying them all the costs they have broken. But I would say that, like you talked about earlier, the season 13 one, they can stump the grape, or they can like they do an switch back like that. Or personally, I think because they are doing the wrapping the grape leaves, the other side of the challenge, they can eat grapes,
Mm,
tons of it,
mm.
right? Or use one bottles to do a challenge. I kind of think that they cannot actually be the person that actually go harvest some grapes or touch any of their product. That's what I would assume. So eating grapes may be a good challenge. Um, so let's go back to what you said about what you remembered about the stomping on grapes. Any challenge that you can come up with that doesn't involve drinking at a vineyard?
Um, Drinking at a vineyard.
Not
The
not
only
not drinking in the vineyard. Like because for safety reason, they drive right after the challenge, right? So of course, for safety reason, I don't think the production team wanted to drink a little, even taste a little bit, because
yes.
every I think all the countries has different laws. I'm not sure what's the drinking law they have to follow, especially no drink and drive, like we always said, right?
Mm.
So yeah.
They had the task in season 20, and I believe they had it last season as well with the balancing the bottle on your head.
Oh yeah, that's two. But then they just did that in season 32, so
Yes,
I don't think they can do that again in season 33.
fair.
Yeah. Yeah. Oh well, but that's fine. So then some podcasts actually pointed out that Raquel possibly got some instruction from a production on how to wrap the grape leaves with the stuffing inside after all the teams have left because there was a commercial break in between. So that was, I think, probably their joke of talking about it. It's like, oh, how come all of a sudden Raquel just say, oh, I really don't know how, but after the commercial break, and she's like, oh, I realize it how because so that's then some podcasters from other shows saying that that's a little bit mysterious. I think, but then what I'm was more concerned about is that, like, personally as a producer, sometimes I do actually have to give some hints to teams if they were really far behind. Not necessarily for the pandemic situation, but just because in order to keep the production going, you cannot have one team that's lag really behind. So, but I wonder what's the Amazing Race logistic behind all this, because we keep hearing things from the teams as well as the shows and possibly the podcasters or everybody said that they are doing this because of the pandemic. But we have talked about a few times about sometimes their decisions really not. It doesn't look like it's actually really about pandemic. Do you believe? Do you can you think of any examples about that, or do you really think that what they're doing right now to keep the team so close or departing 15 minutes apart from at the groups? Is it really for pandemic reason?
It's a weird thing, right? Because I feel
Mm-hmm.
like not only is it a disadvantage to the team that, like, look at it this way: Kim and Penn, this leg
Mm-hmm.
finished long before any other team. They
Oh,
got
so you know the secret about it? Yes. Okay.
so now that they have to now depart with the teams that finished second next leg
Mm-hmm.
and not hold their lead,
Mm-hmm.
that's unfair
Mm-hmm.
a little bit. I don't see why can't they depart separately. It's never made sense to me for the pandemic reason. It never really clicked. Maybe I'm missing something.
Yeah, I think we are all missing something. So we hope that some of the teams, when they're doing their own podcasts, that would if they can disclose some production logistic, and that will help us to understand why the Amazing Race is making those decisions. But when you talk about that, about Kim and Penn Holderness actually arrived pissed off so early, I wonder if you knew that. I think I also heard about Lulu and Lala's exit interview. You remember that part of it? They were checking in pissed off by accident.
Hmm. Yes.
So then, when they were checking at the pit stop by accident, Kim and Penn Holderness were already at the pit stop already. That's how far apart they were. So yeah, so then you can kind of imagine that Lulu and Lala was really having a navigational issues at this point of the leg. So let's talk about So then, of course, the wrapping is fine. I mean, some things fell behind, and then some things went basically like. Of course, we know Kim and Penholder is this still in their first place lead, and then Arun and Natalia was able to catch up. So and then Raquel and Kayla was the last one to leave at the who loves to rap roadblock. Then after that, they went to Then they of course drove themselves to Mamo's Katina stand, a random stand in the residential area, and looking for Dimitra. Um, Personally, I was wondering, is there any reason they went for a random stand that's set up by production in the middle of residential area? Why couldn't they go to a restaurant or to do a challenge? I wonder what kind of COVID restrictions that Greece was practicing back then. What do you think? Do you Why do the production pick a food truck for this?
Because the restaurant I feel like is so enclosed.
Hmm.
Maybe like you can bring the restaurant outdoors. I feel like it was the right decision to just do a food stand. I think that was okay. I like that decision. So it was like I feel like a restaurant is so enclosed. So maybe it was the right decision to do a food stand.
Mm. Well, then, of course, the teams arrive there. They have to spell souvlaki, and when I was watching, I was like, I don't know how to spell souvlaki. Do you?
No, no way, no way.
No way, right? So then, and of course, it's kind of funny to listen to all the podcasts, all the exit interview before we do this, actually. So once again, according to Lulu and Lala, before the teams have to sell a souvlaki, they were also required to sell souvlaki to the locals. If it were truly so, why would they edit out all of this?
Maybe it's a time issue. They wanted to show everything they showed, and they did show a lot. Maybe they didn't feel like they could show everything.
Um, like for me, like personally, I feel about this episode. I will explain how I feel about this episode is really I don't think it seems like there's a lot of content, but the way they are showing it, it shows that they have no content at all. I wonder, it's just kind of weird. Like you can see they are actually have 4 stops to make. Each stop there's something to do, but it's just kind of funny that in the end of it, it just they keep showing something that doesn't really need to show, and then I will I will I will talk about this a little bit later. So selling souvlaki to locals, is it boring, or is it also because if somebody refused to sign the agreement to appear in a show? I mean, this is all possible. So we'd really like somebody to actually disclose some reason for this. Like, and we keep looking at this season where the Amazing Race keep editing out some interesting stuff, and we really wonder kind why we don't have like, is it production? Is it the production team of the Amazing Race, or the editing team that is actually having decision on this? So for me, I'm always the one that do editing, so I know I don't have time restrictions. So I just want to show as much as I can. So it's a good thing to be like that. But I know TV shows always have a 42-minute time slot. You just have to be really pay attention. Then, did you notice that? Have you ever count how many times do you have to hear Demetra said, "The dish of the day is souvlaki," but you must spell it. How many times have you said that? Do you know?
I have no idea, but that'd be a pretty good drinking game if you're a drinker.
Yeah, and I actually counted it. It was 6 times. Every single time they use the same footage, or not all 6, of course. But for me, when I look at it, it's like when she said that every single time, it's about 1 minute, 1 minute, 1 minute. So you basically have 6 minutes of the 42 minutes, have somebody keep saying the same thing. Like, and on the back of my mind, I was thinking, there's something called editing, right? We could just have the team spell out right away without she actually requesting them to do it, because we know that's what they need to do. So her saying this 6 times is just really rubbing me in the wrong way of why the Amazing Race decided to go from this sort of route of constantly being repetitiveness over and over in this episode. Then we, of course, know that they each have to eat a souvlaki. Personally, I never ate one. Have you, Connor?
I have not. I can't say I have, though.
No worries. And then after this episode, or at least this week, that I think the sales of souvlaki have went up. Well, any Greek restaurant probably will. I think any Greek restaurant who sells souvlaki probably have a lot of order this week, which is good for the business. And do you think that eating one per team is too easy, or do you think that each of them should eat one?
The fact that it's something that is meant to taste good, I don't think it matters. If it was meant to taste bad, it's different. But the fact that it's meant to taste good, I don't think it matters. And in the grand scheme of things, if they also had a different task they didn't show, they probably didn't expect to be showing this as much as they did. So they probably were like, oh, just order it.
True. If I were the one to make the decision, I will have each person to eat one. So they have the double the chance to actually find and exclude in the wrappers, right? I mean, why not? Well, I'm a cruel that way, but personally, I think for each person to have a gagging reflection, or like for something you like to eat, like raw onions, of course, I mean, it will be fun to watch on TV. So, like recently, we just done the race. Basically, the entire race was about eating challenge, and I can show you, like we do show until last episode. We're gonna do this one, just one clip from it, and this is something we're gonna show, and it's kind of fun. Let's take a look.
Roundabout. This is a 2-part challenge. First part must finish first before the second part can start. Coffin first, croissant later. Okay. Gordati. Gordati in Italian means enjoy it.
Oh my gosh, this is like really big.
Come on, take that. Take it in.
eat it and work out at the same time. So make it eat and burn.
You gotta finish chewing first.
Yeah.
You gotta finish chewing. I had to finish chewing. I'll try something.
You're doing really good. They're gonna beat you. No, stop.
Yeah, but you can't yell because you can't eat a muffin. I know you can eat a muffin. It's like a bread muffin. Yeah, but it looks good.
You got this.
Put it in your mouth.
She's chewing.
So that's about it. So we kind of force feed the teams and then to eat such a big coffin. Like I actually ate one myself. I have to cut it probably in 3 portions. So that's something where you kind of create a funny part of it, and people will look at it as it's fun to watch. And to watch, hate to say it, to watch racers suffer makes good TV. Yes. And so when Lulu and Lala had to eat the second one, not saying I don't feel not that saying I don't feel bad for them. I do, but as a producer point of view, is like that's what I want when teams make a mistake, and that's what's make reality be more interesting to watch.
Agreed.
So if you were, did you think that you would ever actually pay attention to the rappers? Would you actually notice that the clue is actually on the rapping thing?
That's tough. I feel like that's really tough. I don't feel like I would notice it until maybe after when they're like, I'm asking the lady for my clue and she's like, and then I'm like, what am I missing? Maybe you go back in the rapper and look at the rapper, but I don't think I would notice it immediately. I really like the rapper trick too. I love the fact that they had it in the rapper and that was an extra little thing they didn't have to do, but added for excitement. Like we see so many times after it's done, just here's the clue, but it added a whole nother thing to the task. And I thought that was very interesting and I had no complaints. I thought that was very fun TV.
Yes. So we keep when the teams are actually doing this challenge, you'll keep seeing them referring back to a piece of like letter-sized paper, or with the red and yellow stripe on each side, and that's what I call it a detailed instruction paper, which it comes with every single clue when they open it. So the funny part of that is that whoever wrote the clue back then didn't decide to basically to tell the teams directly that the clue is on the wrapper, right? So it creates this kind of drama, and the teams basically have to realize it. So should the Amazing Race actually not to be so explicit on all the details to create moments like this, so the team to be more observant where the clue should be, i.e. on the wrapping paper in this case. Yeah, if you have any comments on if the Amazing Race should do this more often, like what Connor says that he actually likes it, yeah, comment on it or voice your opinion on all of our podcasts or even other people's podcasts. We're good over that too. I personally have done that before as well, and I will continue to do that in the future in our upcoming races. It's actually fun. So after the wrapping, after the souvlaki task, and then teams had to head to St. George Church with a memory roadblock where the person who didn't perform the first roadblock have to perform the second one. So Connor, what do you think about this challenge?
I like a double roadblock. I like the fact that there's that rule of you did the last one, you can't do this one. I always find that interesting. It challenges teams, and I love a double roadblock. And this challenge was one of the hardest ones that I think I've seen this season so far. This challenge is like what I feel like every challenge should be with the difficulty level. Like it's tough. You have to pay attention. You have to sit there. This would be my biggest weak point. You'd be taking this one, Bill, because I would not be taking this one.
I was thinking about that. Would I be able to memorize all this? I possibly could. I mean, it's a good challenge, but it's a very bad TV, to be honest. So it was a 50 minutes long sermon with religious background, religious content. So you basically have the team stand there, and then you have once again the team members to make facial expression, or have the other team member to basically say, "Oh, I believe my teammate can do this." When there's no action involved, then it's just same thing like the net nodding the roadblock in the previous episode, it was just that nothing. I would love to show another thing from what we do, but I don't. It's very long, so I don't want to. I don't want to do it. So what we have done in the past in the Amazing Hunt is that we basically had a team to go down in a trail. At the end of the trail, there's a plaque, right? So then you have to memorize it and come back up, and then to basically reorganize all the content together to make it correctly. So the action part of it is that running down the trails and then come back up the trails, all about action. Then I think the Amazing Race this season is very lacking on the movement, everything. Once again, like I said, is it really because of pandemic or is it because they are just not good at coming up challenge this season? And it sort of made me wondering if Greece, with a sort of sudden change on the route when they try to do this season, like in the midst of the pandemic, right? Do they do they have to come up with a route like the last minute of it because of the change of the pandemic? It is all hard to say, but I personally don't like something like this kind of roadblock where a team's just standing there and listening.
Mhm. Yeah, I mean, I see what you're saying.
But I know you probably disagree with me there a little
I
bit.
mean, it's not the most exciting TV in the world, but at the same time, we're getting a tough task. So again, I'll take my blessings one at a time. I'll
Sure.
take it.
Yeah, you're doing a religious referencing apparently. You're blessing. So talking about that, when I design a challenge, I tend to try to leave the religious part out of it. As a viewer, or personally, are you okay with this kind of religious related challenge?
I was fine with it. I saw no issue with it.
Hmm. I was watching the episode with my friend. My friend was kind of like, I think he was really he doesn't really watch Amazing Race that much, but he was just very shocked about how they described the when Phil described the challenge, right? And it's just like I'm like, yeah, well, I'm just gonna leave at that as it is. I'm not gonna say more. Uh, so then, of course, then we find out that once there are actually 10, I believe 10 different pictures, 10 different stories, then they have to pick five to arrange it. To my surprise, they only have one station, pretty much like the gently down the stream. Also have one table set up, so there's no multiple ones. So you see that Dusty and Ryan will be the one that does it first, then Raquel Kayla does it second, and then Arun and Natalia does third, right? So why can they not set up two locations, right? So I that's something I'm wondering about.
Mhm. I wish I had the answer. I don't know, but
Yeah.
we trust that they know what they're doing and they're doing everything for a reason. So
Uh, like what it is, I believe is that verbal. I think in TV wise, it will be great to have somebody basically try to verbally talk about the question, like like the five questions that the guy was mentioning, 1, 2, 3, 4, and 5. But it will also work if basically there will be five questions sitting on a table, and then the teams just read it out loud by themselves. Then it creates another type of challenge, which is about reading comprehension of it. So then they can set up two tables. You find like you find this season a lot of a challenge, even including the mac and cheese one in the previous episode, that actually each only one team at a time that can eat the mac and cheese. So when Raquel and Kayla was there first, they were actually eating the cheese while Kim and Penn holders were waiting at the back of the tower. They don't show them, but they were just waiting for the first team to finish. Like I like the amazing how during the beer races we have done that because all the pandemic restrictions. So I understand why they're doing this, but it's just I would personally prefer they actually explain that on TV rather than not saying it because The Amazing Race 33 is a season that basically tried to keep selling the idea is that we can do this in the pandemic. But none of the episodes except the fourth one, when they return from the when they do the restart, then they talk about, yeah, we're restarting because of the pandemic, and that's the end of the thing we hear about it. And there's no other word referencing to pandemic at all. Yeah. Hmm.
It's an interesting point.
Yeah, it makes it sound so serious. I thought I was supposed to be funny, but apparently not. So, then what do you think about the view itself, like the church? Do you like the scenery and everything in this episode?
I did. Greece seems like a place that would be very nice to visit, and that's what you want from a destination on the Amazing Race. You want the viewer to be like, "Oh my God, that looks so good! I'd love to be there." Because like the whole idea is if it's sponsored by Travelocity, doesn't Travelocity want some of like the buzz of like travel people traveling to go to these places? Like it's a whole circle of like advertisement versus product. So.
Yeah, but the funny part is that the winner of this leg of the race didn't actually win anything from Travelocity. They won $7,500.
They're doing a lot of cash prizes recently, so
Yeah, and I was surprised when I hear it's $7,500 because the maximum they give out is 5,000. Yeah, please let me know if I were wrong. I don't remember they actually go anywhere more than $5,000. So 75 is actually something new for me. Then let me see. Then of course after that they have to go to the pit stop. Then we have it's not big deal for a lot of teams, except I think I saw Dustin and Ryan was actually trying to pass Raquel and Kayla, but they were having a little bit trouble navigating, so they ended up being third one more time. Raquel and Kayla, despite the difficulty they have been through the entire leg, they were from second to fifth, and then to possibly fourth, and then to second again. So good for them. And then uh, of course, Dusty and Ryan with third. Do I want to say Aruna and Natalia were fourth? So unfortunately, Lulu and Lala were the one that eliminated. So were you shocked about that?
no. If you would have told me before watching the episode that Lulu and Lala would have been eliminated, I wouldn't have been shocked, but I would have been a little surprised that it wasn't it wasn't Aruna and Natalia. I'm even more bummed that my lovely draft has been eliminated back to back to back.
Mhm.
Curse these non-elimination legs; they're good for nothing.
Oh well. So, well, there's definitely a lot of different ways of doing the non-elimination way by doing the DC to be continue, or the Mega League, or like the one the Amazing Hunt was doing, pulling the departure time. So, well, we'll see. We only down to 3 episodes left, but 2 weeks. So we're most likely going to have the finale to have a 2 hour, and then next week will be just one more 1 hour 1 hour episode. So now it's up to now. I'm guessing if they're going to eliminate a team, the next destination, or they would do that before the team's departing back to US like they always do.
Hmm.
We'll find out in the next episode, of course. So, kind of want to go back to a little bit about this episode, how they portraying this episode overall. The it it felt like full of content. Like there's driving, there's navigating problems, and there's the 4 different challenges. So climb up the tree, or not really climb up a tree, jump up the tree, and then wrapping the food, and then eat the souvlaki, and then do another roadblock at the memory challenge. But then it feels very boring to me because how the repetitiveness of the footage was using. Like I said earlier, Dimitra, the wonderful woman was serving the souvlaki, she actually have to repeat her line 6 times, and then you have the ongoing sermon that keep going repeatedly over and over and over. You have the priest guy. I'm sure that he's actually not the priest. So, but then see, to behave or to act uh, um, sort of impatient. Well, I think he did a good job at delivering those. So then you have teams do the same quiz 5 times. Like they show it when it comes to third time already. I was like, well, if they show it this way, that means the team's got it correctly. So when if you notice that if they show the picture side by side, not in the sort of five on the top, five in the bottom, then you know the team got it correctly.
Mhm.
Why are we seeing that 5 times, right? So what's the point of that? And according to Lulu and Lala, even when they did their challenge, they were actually didn't finish the first time. Although the show did present it that way, I think it's just to kind of pretend the gap between Aru and Natalia and Lulu and Lala were close. I get that part of it.
Yes.
Then it just feels very repetitive in the post production work. It's kind of sloppy to me. Uh, I may be too critical on it, but it just seems so repetitive for me. And not only I'm the one that realized that, there's a few people also realize that the content of the show, it feels like it's a 30-minute show, but they have to drag out all the way to 45 minutes.
Yeah. I definitely get that vibe as well. But I like I said, the other past episode and the episode before there's been other episodes that I've suffered with more. So like small victories. So I mean, I thought this episode was fine. I see what you're saying, but I've definitely experienced worse. So I'll take it. So
It's the same thing when I do my podcast. I'm dragging out my portion of it as long as right, which Connor is always precise to the point. So yes, please,
not
please,
always.
please write down your disdain about the way I'm speaking about my point of view. But either way, one more thing about this is that at the end of it, when Lulu and Lala got eliminated, Phil then keep interviewing them and talk about how they feel about it. I think that all went out almost about 4 or 5 minutes long. It's another way of dragging out the end of the thing. I know it's nice to hear what they feel about it, but it's like really like it just seems that there's nothing to show in this episode. It's like everything is just like slow and painful, and that's just how I feel. I know you feel totally different. And of course, at the end of it, we see Lulu and La jump into the water, uh, encouraged by Phil, I think. And Phil said, "Oh, that was the most dramatic exit for a while." No offense to Phil, but if this is a measurement about dramatic, I probably found one of the reasons why the Amazing Race has been stale and predictable for the last few seasons. Really, jumping into the water is something that you find dramatic? No. Yeah. If they throw the backpack to the water, yeah, probably that will be it. So, well, that's pretty much about it. That from my side of it, I don't want to drag it out. So, how about you, Connor? Any other things you want to talk about, or any question you have for me about how my negative feeling about this episode? While you feel good about it.
I think we covered everything we needed to cover. Personally, I mean, we have the pessimist and the optimist at it again. So
Yeah, the PO. I'm the pessimist. You're the optimistic. Yeah. So okay. Well, and then of course, then we go to look at the next week preview. Then we saw a very dramatic moment, which I think everybody's talking about it. Whole bunch of groups were nailing down a place where it's full of rocks. They have to flip over it. It's like a searching challenge where they have to find the one probably has marking on it. And apparently, I think some people were starting to cry. I think that was Kim Holderness. So, what do you think? Are you looking forward to this challenge? Like you said, this as the season progresses, you start liking the show better. Do you think that's another episode that you're looking forward to?
Very much so. I always love the task, whether it's a needle in the haystack. The needle in the haystacks are some of my favorite tasks, so I look forward to it.
So do you think that will actually be? I don't know if you ever watched season 6,
I
where
have.
one team, yeah, you have, has searched for the hay bale for almost like I say 7 hours. Do you think that will happen ever again? As in the first team arrived there and end up leaving last.
I mean, with 4 teams, it's much more possible than with like a billion teams. Like what happened with that situation.
Mhm.
I love it because it brings back luck,
Mhm.
and Amazing Race is a lot about luck. So
True. Yes. And I was actually thinking about this yesterday. I because I don't know if the next episode is going to be elimination or not. Should we do our final three prediction today, or should we wait till the next episode?
um, ooh, let's do it. Let's do it real fast because we don't know if we're gonna get the final three. Let's make the most of it. What's your final
So
three prediction?
out of the four teams, which team do you think is not going to make it to the final three if the next leg of the race is an elimination leg?
Um, it's tough because the needle in the haystack task is a great equalizer,
Yeah.
but I'm gonna stick with Arun and Natalia are gonna get fourth. I'm gonna stick with the easy, the basic, the obvious.
Mhm.
I'm gonna stick with. What do you think, Bill?
Well, before I reveal my answer, you do know that they are one of your draft pick, right?
Oh, Arun and Natalia. No, they're not. They're Dustin.
Well, oh, my memory. Okay, so well, hope Dustin will come back in the future episodes. So we have two more episodes left. So then he can tell us what he thinks about his draft pick. My well, I'll tell you what my answer is, and then you can tell me what you think about my answer. So I think the team that's probably not going to get to move on to the final three is Raquel and Kayla.
Mm. I was thinking about them. Um, it's possible. It's
Yes.
possible.
So we will come back to this when we see the next episode on Wednesday, see whether it's going to be an elimination or not. That's probably the one that's going to be unpredictable, probably as the searching task that we're probably going to see for next week. So that's a wrap for today's podcast. Wrap again. So so wrap the grape leaves and the souvlaki wrap with the clue. If you can correctly tell me how many times in this podcast I've said the word souvlaki, please comment below. I will see if I can wrap something and send it to you on your way. Oh, I will try my best. But that's, so that's it for today for the Live Reality Games podcast. We thank you for listening once again. Please remember to like, subscribe, and follow our Facebook, YouTube channel, and Twitter. Thank you very much. We'll see you next week.
See you
Thank
next
you,
week.
Claudia. Thank you.